All right. Happy Sunday, fun day, everybody. Welcome to the Russell Factor. I'm Sean. Thank you guys so much for joining. We are live right now. First off, want to say a couple of big things. We got a hell of a show for you guys. This will be the last live podcast that we're going to be doing for 2024. We will see you guys next year, which sounds so weird to say. Before we get started, though, I have a couple of special guests that are going to be with me today. One's going to be dialing in later. We're saving him for a special treat for y'all. I have a very good friend, longtime subscriber, longtime sports enthusiast, and a great friend of mine and the Russell Factor, Mr. Jeff McFarland. He's also one of our local celebrity comedians. So, Jeff, thank you for being here, man.
Appreciate the invite.
Great to have you on the show.
We're going to have some fun.
We are going to have some fun. Tell the world a little bit about yourself, man.
Oh, God. Ex-military man. Ran health clubs for about 15, 18 years.
I remember you telling me that. As we're drinking beer.
As we're drinking beer, yes. The last few years, started a flooring company. My parents had a store. I told my father, I'm never going to be a stinking flooring guy. Ta-da! And here I am.
Ironic. It is kind of ironic.
Yeah, never screw with your dad when he goes, you're going to learn this business whether you want it or not. That way you never starve. The real reason, you're not moving home with me. So I knew how that worked out.
That's funny.
So,
well, thanks again for being here, man. Dude, like I said, I'm so glad to have you. We
Pleasure.
did have a couple other folks that were going to be here. One of them's actually in the hospital right now, so I hope you get better, bud. And the other has a prior commitment that he can't get out of. But you know what? We're going to adapt and overcome like we did in the military. We're going to keep going for you. Couple of big shout-outs before we get started. First one goes out to my aunt and uncle, Sandy and David Koki. Last night they threw our big family Christmas party, and it was one of the best parties I think I've ever been to last night. I saw cousins I haven't seen in over 25 years, so I was super excited for that. The food was amazing. It was one of the best Christmas parties I've ever been to. So thank you, Aunt Sandy. Thank you, Uncle David. I love you guys. That was an amazing party. Shout out to you guys. Second one, with a deep and heavy heart, I got to say thoughts and prayers go out to the family of Ricky Henderson. Passed away today. One of the all-time baseball greats. One of the all-time leading stealing basemen out there. So for those of you that did know that, rest in peace, Ricky. We love you, man. And I guarantee you're up there playing with the Field of Dreams, man. I guarantee it, man. So great memories with that. That being said, let's get started. I want to talk some football.
We're here.
It's that time.
It's that time. And this is where the big boys separate from the little boys.
That sandbox is getting divided.
I agree.
100%. Stay off my swing on the playground. No. You know what? Let's hop right in, man. College football seems to be the big thing right now.
Yes, it is.
We're going into our first season with the new college football playoff structure. I want to talk about that in a minute. But before we get started, Jeff, you and I were talking, a couple weeks ago, about the portal.
Go ahead. Where do you go with that? I mean, I tell you what, you can sit at a bar and it's a love-hate conversation. Either it's stupid or it's the greatest thing in the world. And I tell you what, I have mixed feelings about the portal. I think there are athletes, not just guys, athletes that have had a chance to go to schools and transfer to areas they normally wouldn't have never had the chance to go to previously before the portal. Correct.
A school could only recruit within areas that conference resided. For example, like the SEC is in Alabama, Georgia, Florida. Any place that a school that's in that conference is in, any school can recruit from that geographic area. That no longer is the case anymore. You could be an SEC school down in Alabama, and you can recruit a wide receiver from Oregon, other side of the country, right? So I think I love that, but I also hate the fact that you have teams that are capitalizing on the fact that they are stacking teams with guys that would never have been in their conference before. For example, I'm not going to throw anybody out under the bus, but let's take a Texas team that has recruited from Oregon, has recruited from Ohio State, has recruited from New York, also recruited from Alabama. All places they never would have touched before. And then you're able to stack these teams with these 4- and 5-star recruits that you couldn't have done before. What do you think about that?
Well, think about this. Take, in the old days, Urban Meyers. I'm an Ohio State fan.
He is definitely an Ohio State fan.
Oh, big time. After
also
last
night.
fan.
He's also a Browns fan. We'll talk about that later.
We'll talk later.
We'll talk about that later, but keep going.
But Saban, some of these great coaches that have been around forever. Let's be honest. You win a couple championships, and how do these little schools compete? Because you're telling your kid you want to go to the NFL, you want a big money payoff. These are the coaches you talk to. So how do the little guys?
I like that. I like
compete.
I like the dialect there. I agree with you. That's the reason I think it's great that they have an opportunity to get to some of these schools. But I hate schools that are completely, I don't want to say misusing, because they're not doing anything illegal, but man, they are manipulating the shit out of the portal.
There's money.
They're manipulating the shit out of the portal. That's just
There's money involved.
Yeah.
Yes.
Man, I don't want to harp too much on it, because it's been this year. I mean, literally, 2024 has been a year of nothing but portal talk. Everyone's got their opinions out there. Everyone's got their likes, their dislikes. But I'm glad that I really like the dialect of the little guy being able to go and talk to schools that he normally would. And I love that. Well, since we're talking college football, let's switch gears just a smidgen. College football playoffs right now. This is our first year with 12 teams. 12 teams instead of 4.
Yeah.
I personally love this, because going back to what I was just saying, there are teams that in the past, we have seen this, especially the last 5 years. We have teams that perfect records don't get a chance to compete for a CFP Division I title, right? Now we got 12 teams.
Right.
There's people that freaking hate this, by the way.
Oh, I know they do.
I personally love it, but I'll throw the ball in your court. I'll throw the football in your field. What do you think about this?
Well, I like it personally, because all the little guys get a voice. Now, unfortunately, we've seen this weekend, and a lot of the little guys are getting pounded. It's not like college basketball. When you come down to March Madness, you never know.
That's
the
right.
little guys
that's
from
right around the corner too. So
yeah. So, but this way, everyone gets a voice. And you know what? Before, the old movie with Pacino, Any Given Sunday, now it's Any Given Saturday.
It is.
It's all about inches, first downs, no crying. There's no crying in football.
I love the reference. I'm a big Pacino fan. In fact, I was watching Scarface. I've been in this like mob mood this last couple weeks.
Yeah.
And the Goodfellas, Scarface, Hotel, Casino, all these things I've been watching lately. So I love that Al Pacino reference there. But Any Given Sunday is now Any Given Saturday. That's why it's funny when people I meet, like friends, whether I'm at the bar or I'm traveling or whatever, I've been podcasting, we're going live wherever we're at. You meet people and they're like, what does your typical weekend look like? Well, if I'm not doing this, my ass is on my couch with 3 screens on. You can't see the rest of the studio, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4 screens, not including my laptop, that are actively going right now. And that's how it is when I'm watching football. And that's what Saturdays and Sundays are for me.
That's what it's about.
It's the entire weekend of just football. And if I'm not out, like I said, if we're not out podcasting or doing something like that. But no. So since we're on the topic of college football playoffs, we just saw some amazing games the last couple of days. And in fact, randomly enough, only because I'm a stats guy and we have sports betting analytics, that's what we do, is that all 4 games that I played, the favorites won.
Correct.
It's the first time in like 25-something years, if I recall, that all 4 first game favorites won. You got Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, and Notre Dame against Indiana the other night. Every one of those very good games. Ohio State rocked, by the way. So I gotta give your Buckeyes that. And
don't mess with the nuts,
dude. They are nuts. But reminds me of certain people in my life that I'm not going to mention on this podcast. But anyhow, it's ironic too, because I was just telling Jeff before we kicked off when we went live. that this is the first time in NCAA
Correct.
D1 men's football history that both a bowl game and a college playoff game are the same two teams.
Yeah.
Oregon and Ohio State. So that's pretty freaking awesome. That's cool. We're going to watch history there. The Ducks, man, I have mixed feelings about this game. The fact that it's going to be a neutral turf, which is fantastic. Yes. So that's it's any given Saturday game. But I made a small prediction that Ohio State, and Georgia should come back and see this D1 championship again. It could happen. It
could.
But dude, Oregon's playing good ball right now. What do you think about this game? We'll move on in just a minute. But I was just thinking about what you think about this game.
I will say this. I watched Oregon last week. They're a machine.
They are a well-oiled machine.
They're an oil machine.
Well-oiled machine.
But I'll tell you, after watching last night, the Buckeyes, I'll tell you what, we've said this for years in football. You can have the best running back, the best receiver, the best cornerback. Defense wins games. What I was excited last night, the Buckeyes, they were putting that quarterback scrambling on his back. In football, you don't always have to win the game. Let the other team lose the game.
And, I like that. That's good. That's good. That's good.
I'll tell you what, they were on full cylinders. If they can keep that enthusiasm.
I think I agree with you. I think it's gonna be a hell of a game.
Oh, it's gonna be a game.
I would actually love if we go do something, maybe plan a tailgate or something and go.
Oh no, we're going to.
I think that'd be pretty awesome.
Oh, we're going to.
I love what we're seeing right now. Obviously, we've got Notre Dame. We have Penn State knocking out SMU last night. That was a hell of a game, 38-10 if I recall.
Yes. Yep.
Texas, the Horns rolling over Clemson. That game.
The big boys are stepping up.
The boys are stepping up there, and then Ohio State obviously rolling over Tennessee. I really like that. We have some more coming up this week. I'm excited to see what happens there. I know we've been talking about this. Right now, if someone walked up to you, Jeff, and said, "College football championship game," who do you got going?
Boy,
if you just throw whatever scenario you think out there.
Well, I of course I'm biased.
Okay.
I got to go with my Buckeyes. You know what? It just comes. I think we're due. I've always found we've done our best. I mean, our last national championship, Cardell Jones, third string quarterback, and I met him. Class act.
I always refer to the Buckeyes as like the Bills of college football.
Yes.
They have so many championships where they've actually won. They couldn't because they were ineligible. That they still won the championship where they lost. They couldn't take the trophy home. Yeah. It's kind of ironic to see that, but dude, Ohio State every year they're a dominated team. You got your Ohio States, your Georgias, your Clemsons. Obviously, Notre Dame's firing away this year. Texas is firing away this year.
Who's going to be okay? We got
so put you Ohio State and who's on the other side on the West Coast side or
so we have between is it Georgia?
You got Notre Dame, you got Georgia, you got Boise State.
Could you imagine?
You got Texas and ASU. Oh, that's another side.
That's a tough one. But I mean, who's going to be your upset, in your opinion?
Ooh.
I mean, we got all the games coming up this weekend. Who's going to be your upset?
I honestly, I don't think ASU deserves to be in the playoffs. I mean, God dang it! I think they deserve to be there. It's such a weird gray line. But they're playing really good freaking football right now, and their first year in the Big 12. So congrats again, ASU, for making it in there. I mean, obviously, I'm from Mizzou, went to Missouri. So Big 12 is part
of
my
On behalf of all the ASU fans, root against ASU, because that way, if they win, they're going to love you for rooting against them.
I personally, I love any Big 12 school. I know ASU, U of A, they're all brand new to the Big 12 this year. But man, I'm not a Sun Devil. Most of my family are Sun Devils.
Right.
However, to answer your question, I think ASU upsets Texas. They're ranked higher. They're playing at home. ASU's on fire. Dude, Tempe is going to erupt.
The momentum.
Tempe, Arizona is going to erupt. I think ASU upsets Texas.
I'll go with that.
That's my upset. However, going outside of that bubble, I think they get knocked off the next week, depending on how it plays out after this next weekend.
Right.
And I see either Georgia, Oregon, or Georgia, Ohio State going into the CFP playoff championship game. That's my prediction.
Nope, I'm with you.
Okay, I like it. I'm
with you.
I have mixed feelings about Ohio State going, obviously, because like I said.
Well, they haven't really. They played well this year. They played a lot of Big Ten teams, but I haven't seen them really cap. Yesterday, I see them. The best game I've seen them play.
We literally were just talking about this 30 minutes ago before we started the podcast here, but I would agree with you. That's probably the best game and they played great games.
Yeah.
But I think holistically, and we'll talk about NFL here in a second, but I want to compare them obviously to my Chiefs because yesterday was the best game the Chiefs have had. Holistically, special teams, offense, defense.
Everything clicked.
Everything worked very, very, very well yesterday for my Chiefs. Everything worked very, very, very well for your Ohio State Buckeyes. It's the best game Chiefs played. I want to say the best game the Ohio State Buckeyes played too, but I agree with you on that.
I'm with you. And always remember this. My family had horses. Oh. And we used to always say, it doesn't matter how you start the race. When you come around that final stretch of the curve, I would rather have a team peak at the end. And we're not going to talk about the Cardinals.
Hey,
we're not saying anything about Murray when he first came in. Oh yes,
no, I mean Murray actually he's coming in hot the second half of the season. I think he's turned the Arizona Cardinals around hand over fist.
You did watch this game today, right?
I have not watched the Cardinals today. I was busy.
Yeah, so you can have fun with them on that.
I was busy. Setting up and everything for today's podcast, trying to get everything coordinated. I was watching football obviously all morning long. I mean, the Niners right now are kind of putting a smacking, or Warriors putting a smacking against Miami. I was saying New England was up 14-0 against Buffalo. I want to see Buffalo smacked out because it makes it even easier for the win out for AFC. Obviously for my Chiefs. But yeah, I did watch a lot of football. I did not watch the Cardinals game.
You might want to rescind. If you'd have seen, there's a lot of pissed off Cardinals.
Was Kyler Murray bad? Man, my bad. I respectfully rescind my comment.
Yeah, you might want to watch that one. Yeah.
But no, I will. I'll watch the highlights and stuff later, obviously. But no. That being said, I love where college football is going. I think the portal, give it a couple of years, I think the portal will. I don't want to say work itself out.
They got to tweak it.
It's got to get tweaked. Exactly. It's got to be tweaked.
What did you think about a lot of these kids were hitting the portal already and the playoffs haven't even started?
I don't like that.
That's
I don't
my
like that
issue.
because it's almost like are you a poker player? You ever play poker at all, like Texas Hold'em or anything like that?
Oh yeah.
So there are guys, there are teams of guys that run around like the movie Rounders. We had Matt Damon and I can't think of his name. Anyhow, they hustle, right? And when someone knows they're not going to win, they stack their chips against someone that is going to win.
Right.
Same concept with the player portal. People leaving prematurely.
Right.
And declaring transfer to stack up another team for next year, or to move odds and bet lines. Obviously, if someone commits somewhere, that changes the outlook. And I hate to say it, but it really is a big difference in pro sports. College is a little more leeway, but when someone declares they're going to go somewhere, a trade is going to happen. For example, when DeAndre Hopkins, middle of the season. We acquired him prior to the trade deadline for the Chiefs. The lines shot through the freaking roof as far as offensive scoring. Now, we haven't really done it, Chiefs Nation, Chiefs Kingdom, by the way. We don't blow teams out of the water. However, DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best wide receivers to ever touch football. But the lines shot up, right?
Right.
So when a player is prematurely declaring or transfer, it's stacking the other team.
Correct.
And I don't mean to go on a tangent. I just get real kind of heated a little bit about it, but I'll throw the ball back in your court in regards to that. But bring it round for us, end it for us. What do you feel is going to happen with tweaking the portal?
Well, I think we're going to have, it's going to be a roller coaster. We're going to have things that go very well for students. But once again, now it's coming down to money. And we all know money corrupts. And we're going to find out what happens.
The root of all evil, they say. Right?
Oh, yes. Now, but I could play, if I was an attorney, I could play devil's advocate either way.
Right.
Look what coaches have done. Let's go back to, let's go back a little day. The Bearcats.
Oh, okay.
Back when, who was the famous coach back there that went, I'll test you here, and I know you'll know this. He went to, now I just went brain dead.
I know where you're going.
He went to Notre Dame. Then he went to Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Bearcats, first time in years, are in a big bowl game, and he jumped and was gone. And the assistant.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
So the kids, how can I get mad at them? Well, the coaches did it, and they get injured. Who's going to take care of them?
You know what bothers me? It's funny you bring that up, and we'll circle back around here in a second. But I hate when coaches. This is a big pet peeve of mine. Obviously, we're in a world of texting. We don't do anything anymore.
Right.
A text. Everyone texts everything. It's funny because this man right here is probably one of the only people I know that as soon as I text him, he calls me. Like that's his deal, but it doesn't happen very often with anyone else other than him. But anyways, when coaches resign via a text message.
Yeah.
That is the most disrespectful thing you can ever do.
Call me.
Any coaches that you're watching right now, I'm sure we have some, don't resign via text message.
Be a man.
Be a man, grow some huevos, and call, or at least do old school, write a letter.
This is not figure skating with a skirt.
I've seen...
You're football.
I've seen so many coaches that have resigned with a text message, and it just blows my mind. Like... I have guys, my day job and stuff like that. I have guys that will text me because I've made it clear this is what I want from them. They text me if they're not going to make it in for work, and I'm saying, hey, I'm out today. I'm going to take a sick day. Cool, that's acceptable for me because that's the fastest way to let me know. Mm-hmm. But dude, if you're gonna quit on me, give me a letter of resignation.
Yeah.
Don't send me a text message. But anyhow, let's shift gears. We've been talking about this for 25 minutes now. College football, I love where the portal's going. I hope to see it work itself out, tweak it, do whatever we need to do. I expect to see some great things happen.
Yes.
And I'm excited for some of those little guys that we mentioned earlier to get out and do big things with big schools. And so that being said, I'm not going to harp on it anymore. Let's change directions, but let's stay in the football topic. Let's go to NFL, man. We brought it up a second ago. We're talking about some teams that are out there playing right now. We're rolling into the playoffs right now as well in the NFL. And there's a lot, not a lot, there's a little bit of speculation around the teams that are pretty much already set. As far as the NFC is concerned, I mean, we've got Minnesota, we've got the Chargers, or the Rams, sorry. We got Minnesota, we got the Rams, we got Detroit Lions, we got Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Washington, who just upset the Eagles today, which was pretty awesome. Good job, Commander. Jaden Daniels. Dude, Stud. Okay?
Stud.
We'll talk about this more in depth here in a minute, but I'm just rattling off. And in AFC, we've got Baltimore, Houston, KC, obviously, Chargers, Pittsburgh, which I'm supposed to be in Pittsburgh on Christmas Day, watching my boys in red play against the Steelers. So I'm excited to be there. Pittsburgh, hit me up when I'm there. And then we got Denver and I believe Buffalo. And I don't see that changing. I think that's pretty much steadfast. Do you see anything, Jeff, or have you heard anything, or do you see anything that you could possibly think that may change the foundation of the NFC, AFC playoff schedule?
No, it's pretty much set. I mean, but before I do go any further, I do want to thank you for all.
I know where he's going.
Oh, here it comes.
Oh my goodness. That's great.
Yes.
Okay.
Last week I was invited for, you see, my Browns shirt, and you see this one here. So I get invited to go and watch the game with them.
Which, by the way, the bar we chose, I love that Castaways bar. I'm giving a little shout out. Their food is phenomenal. That food was amazing. It was a great bar. I love that bar.
Well, the thing was, after doing this, if I'd have really thought this through, I would have came with props.
Oh my goodness!
Being the Chiefs.
Oh my goodness!
And I would have brought
He's got
my
spears.
Yeah, it was kind of like a remake of Little Bighorn. I was the cavalry, and I mean, like, there's no Chiefs, there's no Indians.
Oh my goodness!
They spanked us.
Yeah.
So I just want to shout out to him. Thanks for the massacre. Happy trails.
The Little Bighorn reference was hilarious.
Yes. Well, if I could have found a Custer hat, that would have been even better. But yeah. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Anytime we can give you an ass kicking, I'm down.
Thank you.
Dude, dear Browns, man. I hope they figure it out because it's been brutal to watch them this year. I don't want to harp on them because I hate putting salt on people's wounds.
Oh, no.
But you're a grown ass man. I think you can handle it. And so Cincinnati just waylaid on them. I mean, obviously, home state rival there.
We're the only ones. Ford runs the ball 80 yards, and we're in scoring distance, and we screwed that up. I swear to God.
I actually, because they had a great year last year.
Yeah.
I expected more from them this year. They're definitely over or underperforming, I guess is probably the better word. I was going to say overly not performing. Underperforming is probably a better word.
How do you win Defensive Player of the Year?
That's what
Defensive Coach of the Year, and we're doing nothing defensively. It's a team that's broken. They don't have faith in management. They don't have faith in the owners. I tell you, my rivalry is Pittsburgh. But the one thing I can say about the Roonies, look how small a coaching they've only had three. How many coaches? And they stick with their coaches. They stick with their players, and there's loyalty. And
it's funny you bring up Pittsburgh because I did know this, but I didn't know how deeply rooted this. We're gonna switch gears for just a second. I didn't realize how deeply rooted the hatred was between Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
You know why?
Yeah, but I mean it's just traditionally like it's blood city bloodbath.
Because they're the old Browns.
Yeah. That's why I said I was going to circle back around to this. But, no, it's just nuts. I didn't realize how deep that goes. I mean, and Mike Tomlin for the Pittsburgh Steelers, there was something that was said on one of the sports shows I was watching yesterday. And it said Mike Tomlin, when they go to either Cleveland or they go to Baltimore, he literally hypes his team up saying, you guys remember how much we hate them? And I was like, damn, that's a good.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big, big thing. Anyhow. We won't talk too much more about your Browns. I know it's a sore subject, but I am hoping that they come back. But I mean, how do you play like you did last year and they come back and play like this? Yeah, they had some transfers, but I mean, it's just one of those things. Like I expected more from them, honestly.
There's no respect, in my opinion.
Yeah.
How do you go into a locker room and you got a quarterback who just made a $250 million paycheck, and in 3 or 4 years he's not played one full season.
Yeah. Well, and that's how Kyler Murray was too.
But they can't get a raise. We had our boyfriend.
You got to have numbers and stats in order to talk money. You know what I mean? But,
look at Flacco.
Yeah.
All he wanted to stay. He came off the third. He was the practice team. He wanted $1 million to stay, and we wouldn't give him $1 million. And yet he put us in the playoffs last year.
I'm not going to harp on it anymore. I hope that they get their stuff figured out because I'd like to see them come back and play at the potential that we saw them finish out the season with last year. I thought we saw a potential good playoff run from the Browns.
They did.
They look good. That being said, I kind of drew out the bracket of what we expect to see from both NFC and AFC teams. There's nothing, we both agree, there's nothing that's out there that we see is ultimately going to be too crazy. That is going to change the dynamic there. Since we're on this topic, and we're going to talk Super Bowl in a second, for all the subscribers that are listening right now, I just want to take a moment and say this is 3 years in a row that we put out day one, week one predictions from the Russell Factor in regards to who we think is going to be either World Series, NBA champs, NFL Super Bowl champions, so on and so forth, right? We always do that. It's a fun little thing we do. I said at the beginning of this year it was going to be the Chiefs and the Lions. Right. I said that week one, day one. You can go back and watch those podcasts. But just want to point that out. So for those of you that are watching, that are staying loyal and faithful, I said that. So let's talk about the playoffs. Right now, Pittsburgh just lost yesterday. We have a potential of the Niners getting beat out today. And Houston losing against the Chiefs. Washington upsetting Philly. That was a big game, 36-33. That was, like I said, Jay Daniels just a stud. I think personally that one team, sleeper team, I'll give you a chance to talk this in a second. If there's a team I think that could Cinderella dance their way up the chain and possibly give somewhere run for money, is the Washington Commanders. I think the Commanders could be a sleeping Cinderella team on the NFC side, obviously. And then for the AFC side, a team that scares me is Baltimore. Even though, they beat out Pittsburgh yesterday, both Pittsburgh and Baltimore in the AFC for a playoff run, I think Baltimore could be a sleeper that could hurt ultimately my Chiefs.
Correct.
If they knock out Houston, the way the bracket's set up, I think if Baltimore knocks out Houston, they'll play KC being the first week bye. And if that happens, I think Baltimore could scare. Only fact is, we're playing in Kansas City, and we're 16 straight games at home, not losing. But Baltimore scares me. So, what about you? What do you think? Those are my two kind of sleepers.
I'm going to go with that. Like I said, everyone picks on your team. You only won by this, one by that.
But we're actually 16 is a weird number because we're also 16 straight games where we've only won by one score. One point or one score, yeah.
Well, always think about this. When you play the lottery, the last number
is all that matters.
You only won by one number. You weren't plus one or minus one.
I like that.
I would never. You give your boy Mahomes, I wouldn't give him 15 seconds on a kick. So he does his best under pressure. We got his foot. As long as he's healthy, I think you're in.
Well, it's because there's a lot of sports commentators and sports podcasters and analysts that have shows and stuff. And it was funny. Every one of them were like, "What ankle injury did he have?" Yeah, because he obviously had a high sprain, but he played yesterday like he had zero injuries at all, which was fantastic. But I'm glad you bring up a point like when you bring up Patrick Mahomes, when you bring up the Chiefs, that's the first name I didn't want anyone's mouth is. I love Patrick Mahomes. I do too. Obviously, he's my team's quarterback. But you know what I love about that guy is that he's like a magician. Like only he sees things. He reminds me of Steve Young for the San Francisco 49ers back in the 90s. That guy just made things happen.
Yeah.
Whether it's Jerry Rice or Frank Gore or whatever it is, it's like there was always things happening for the Niners, and it was just like magic. And he's a Houdini, and he just makes weird ass plays happen behind the back, no look throws that like no quarterback should ever do, but it just happens. It's fun watching him. I hope we three-peat this year because that'd be fantastic. I love where we're going as far as like the upset potentials. There's nothing you see that's out there right now. Someone walked up to you, Jeff, and said, "Super Bowl, what teams you got going?"
Well,
because we haven't talked about this.
No.
This is all raw. We haven't talked about this.
I'll tell you what. I have a hard time arguing with your picks because I think it'll be the Chiefs or Baltimore.
Like I said, Baltimore scares me.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think we went out that I'm going to – I don't know, but it's just like it's in that little pit of my stomach,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to see Buffalo. They've been there, I know. But I mean,
Josh Allen, man, I don't know. That team is they're such a roller coaster.
Well, let's go back to
sorry,
Kelly.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
The old I'm from Canton, Ohio.
Yeah.
And my football stadium is the Hall of Fame field.
I've yet to be there, by the way.
And watching
I'm going to do a podcast out of there within the next year. I'm going to do another.
Gee, I know a family who lives there.
I'm saying like, hey, I'll sleep on the couch. I don't care. Send me.
Well, but I would love to see it if anyone deserves it more than them.
I think Buffalo. I think the way it sends up now, I think it's going to end up being Buffalo, Denver. And I think Buffalo knocks out Denver because they shouldn't be in the playoffs anyhow.
No.
That and I just hate any AFC West team that's not the Chiefs going to the playoffs. But anyhow, I think Buffalo wins out. We could see a Buffalo KC potential rematch like we've seen the last couple of years, and I could see that happening. But I obviously don't want anything to happen with my Chiefs. But I definitely want Denver to lose. I definitely want. I hate saying this because I like watching this year. I want Pittsburgh to lose.
Oh no, I would hate that.
And I love the idea of Baltimore getting knocked out by Houston because we just took care of Houston.
Oh, yeah.
KC could do it again in a couple of weeks and knocked it out there. But so you agree with me on my picks? I think it's gonna be KC,
yep.
Detroit. Detroit, I mean, should have went last year, in my opinion. I think the game with the Niners and just the ending of everything, how it happened, I think that changed the trajectory of everything. And I was actually excited to see a Chiefs-Lions Super Bowl last year. Ultimately, we didn't see that, but it is what it is. I think Detroit, man, 34 years since they even went to the playoffs. Last year, they broke it.
Oh, yeah.
So now it's been even longer since they've made it Super Bowl appearance. So I'm excited to see what we have in store for that. That being said, there was a question that was asked to me the other day, and it was about jerseys. And I was curious. It was actually on one of our live podcasts, and so the question was, and I just asked this there just for we got a couple extra minutes. So, all-time NFL jerseys. Throwing back at it, do you have a favorite one that sticks out to you?
Ooh.
Over the last 60 years, 65 years, is there a jersey that sticks out to you the most? Mine is actually really shocking. Go ahead. I want to
hear yours.
Okay, mine's actually really shocking because it's a team you never hear come out of my mouth, and it was back in the 1980s. It was the Chicago Bears. The Bears jerseys, they were all white with the blue and orange stripes. They were clean, but they also, I love when someone gets hit on the field. I don't know, I just love to see the dirt and the grime on a jersey. And I remember watching games as a kid, or even as a teenager in the 80s and going into the 90s, where you see these all white jerseys. They look so good when they come out on the field, right? And even though they're horrible TVs back then, we've come a long way. But you see these all white jerseys, and by the end of quarter one, you could tell who was putting in the work because their jersey was black or brown because they were getting hit. They're in the mud. I don't know. I think the all white jersey from the Bears back in the 80s with the blue and orange stripes was probably one of my favorites that sticks out to me. What about you?
Boy,
I know it's a curveball.
No, it's okay. Once again, back in the 70s, I'm a Browns fan, but I was a big Dallas Cowboy fan.
Ooh.
But I'll tell you, the jersey...
I just had a heated discussion about that.
Oh, I'm not touching on. But the jerseys that I thought were probably the coolest was the, back in the old day, Bob Greasy, the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because that was such a...
big dolphin on it?
Different color.
Yeah.
It wasn't
like turquoise and...
It wasn't your traditional black and white, red and blue. And you had Bob Greasy, Shula.
I didn't think about that one. That's a good call.
That's not a bad jersey.
That's a good call. I like it. We've seen some really cool jerseys. Going back to college football for just a second, we'll ask the same question. Jerseys, college football, all-time favorite one. I have one that just absolutely hands down, but I'll let you go first since I did the last one.
Well, of course, I'm going to say OH. I'm always going to go with OH Stop it.
I can't. Okay, I still like. I'm not sitting here going with Mizzou all day, even though that's where. I mean, they've had some really good football. They're all flat black uniform they wore a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Football team that was awesome. But my answer is Oregon Ducks. All lime green.
I can't believe you said, because after I said Ohio State, I'm like, God, I'm going to hate this.
Ducks.
I was going to say.
They always.
Well, who's their big sponsor?
Is it Nike or Adidas?
Nike.
Nike, yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. When you got that kind of money.
They had Nike. They had Adidas for a while, if I recall, and then Nike won, and then ever since it's a crazy thing.
Well, was it the owner of Nike? He was an alumni.
Yeah.
And
oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah. But it's nuts because like the Ohio Ducks, the bright lime green. It was I think it was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, and they've had so many good ones since then, and even before then. But there's this one, the helmet was bright lime green. The whole outfit was bright lime green. The whole uniform, I mean, was bright lime green. And it was hard to watch on TV because it was just like a blob of green until they spread and they like hiked the ball. And it was like, then you could see but it was like this a patch. It was like watching a Doppler radar.
Are you going to watch football with me New Year's Day?
Of course.
Because we're serving duck at my house.
Know your audience. Have you seen those commercials? Have you seen those commercials with the guy
yes.
Up?
I love that show.
The Alabama Roll Tide when he goes, high tide! High tide! He's like yelling at all the Bama players as they're walking the bus, high tide! And their girlfriend's like, it's roll tide. I think that's hilarious. But no, so that's my favorite jersey of all time, the Oregon Ducks, man. There's been some really good ones out there, but that being said, I know we're winding down the hour. I want to thank everyone for watching so far. Thank you guys so much again. I only have 2 more topics I want to talk about before we wrap up here. Well, we've got my man Jeff here with me. Thanks again for joining, dude. I appreciate you. A topic that everyone... Okay, so before we move on real fast, any last words on the NFL, Super Bowl, anything last that's on your mind that you want to say before we move on? I got 2 topics I want to talk about before we finish up. So,
it's always about, usually when it comes on this time of the year, it's about big games. And it's not how strong your key players are, it's how strong your backup is. And
I think we're going to see a little bit of that going into the playoffs because their teams are hurting. Their teams are hurting. There's injuries that just happened yesterday. Oh, by the way, heart and prayers go out to Houston Texans. One of the most gruesome injuries of the weekend yesterday. Legs split open on the field during a touchdown call. Not going to name drop or anything like that, but anyone that's watching, you guys know what I'm talking about. So hearts and prayers going out for him. Speedy recovery on that. That is a hard loss. Anybody that watched that game saw C.J. Stroud took it very hard. He was actually had a towel over his head. It was very much emotional. But anyways, didn't want to interrupt. That being said, big games backups. I think we're going to see a lot of backups. We're
going to see a lot of backups.
So continue, please.
Oh, no. The other day, Chubb for the Browns broke his foot. Yep. That poor SOB can't get a break. And then Ford's going to step in, and once again, it's going to be depth that's going to take you to the Super Bowl.
It's crazy, man. Gosh dang it. I hate, I know we talked about the Browns so much. I hate seeing Chubb. That dude he can't catch a break.
No.
And I really like him as a player. I like him as a person.
He hung in there.
I really like Chubb. Obviously with his name, that's such a cool fucking name. But I hope
you're on a broken train, and he didn't jump off, so I'll give him credit.
Chubb, I hope you get better, man. But that's all I wanted to talk about for NFL. Yep. I'm gonna switch gears completely, only because I've had so many conversations about this specific person. WNBA, everyone knows where I'm about to go with this. Caitlin Clark.
Love her.
I do too.
I love her.
I've subscribed to her Twitter. I have subscribed to her Instagram. Hopefully we can get lucky enough to have her on the show one of these days. That'd be fantastic.
She has fought everybody.
Dude, our biggest numbers have always been when we talk about Caitlin Clark. Our biggest podcast last year, and short that we did a 60-second short over Caitlin. By far, best numbers we've had, hands down, when we talk about this lady. Tremendous adversity. that she has went through. I love everything about this girl. However, my question to you and to anyone watching, you guys can comment below, obviously, is Caitlin Clark balled out last year. She showed up. She's like, F you guys. You're going to talk smack about me. Got drafted. Indiana Fever have her. Indiana Fever went from being one of the worst WNBA teams to being one of the best WNBA teams. One person. I specifically, or personally, I love this girl. I love what she does. It's funny because Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are fans of hers, and she's apparently fans of them. They never met, and Taylor Swift had posted, and I saw it yesterday. She said, "If you're ever in Kansas City, me and Travis will treat you to a game at the Chiefs." And so nice. She's actually a huge Chiefs fan, obviously, which is crazy. But yeah, question is, Caitlin Clark had an amazing year last year. She broke records. She set records. She proved that the WNBA, while has never been dead, it's just no one talks about it.
Okay, if I can jump in
absolutely, because I got two things.
Let's put it this way. When she was in college, that is the first women's basketball game I actually watched from the beginning to the end. That's as men.
That's
I'll just say as men. You're like, okay, we got Oprah, we got The View, we got women's basketball, but she brought a new effort, a new spark to women's basketball.
I agree.
And this last year, she had to fight against everybody. The battle to me wasn't so much playing basketball; it was all the politics she went through. My prediction, I think she's going to come out stronger and harder because she doesn't want to go down. She's a competitor. She doesn't want to come down as just a flash in the pants. I think she's here to stay.
I agree. That was my question is, does she come out this year better or worse than she did last year? Excuse me.
Oh, she's hungry.
I think she's hungry too.
Yeah. She's got to prove.
I personally see her coming out. I mean, she already set records and broke records last year. I don't know what we see as far as that is concerned, but as far as getting W's for her team, leading that team, growing as a person, growing as a baller, I definitely see that happening.
Yes. She's a team player.
She is.
She's not an I. She's a team.
I love it because there's no I in team. We hear that, but there is an I in win, and that's what she does.
She does.
And I'm excited to see her. So, Caitlin, if you ever do watch these podcasts, and I hope you do, I would love to have you on the show one of these days. Just reach out to me. We'll make that happen. I would love nothing more to have you on the show. Like I said, my numbers have been sky high anytime we mention your name. But shifting gears, one last topic I want to talk about. We're going to go back to college football, kind of full circle. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart. I know we talked just for a quick second before we started the podcast. Maybe St. I was going to throw this out there if we had time. College football players being paid to come play. Huge topic, right? I will. We've got 6 minutes. I will throw this over to you. How do you feel about this? And then I want to make a comment about a College Game Day.
Oh, yeah.
Say with Nick Saban, Shane Gillis.
Oh, yes.
For anybody that's watching, you guys know where I'm going to go with this. But I'm going to throw this over to Jeff. How do you feel about college players being paid to come play now? And I'll leave it at that.
They should have been paid years ago.
Okay.
They've been making the university money. And the sad part, the thing I didn't like for years is it's funny how certain colleges, certain, whether it's the SEC, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, how it's funny how certain establishments get caught that, let's be honest, they all get paid. But at what level?
Yeah. No.
They sacrifice their body, they're putting in hours, and a lot of them, they're never going to be a pro. So I'm glad they're getting paid, finally.
Yeah.
But I do believe in a limitation where the big boys can't manipulate it. And we have more money than you do in your city, so we're going to take all the best.
Yeah. I don't like that. I have mixed emotions. I think I go back and forth on this. Each week, I think there definitely needs to be a cap. The reason I have a problem with this is because a lot of these players are already getting scholarships and getting full 4 and 5 year rides to major universities, Brown, Stanford, Mizzou, Alabama. I mean, these guys are getting $200,000 and $250,000 educations, right? And
but
then on top of that,
but they're net when they graduate. All they have is a P. Come on.
I'm just saying, like, I mean, if I hadn't joined, so when I first went to college, obviously I racked up almost $80,000.
Sure.
In my first 2 semesters.
Right.
And then obviously I was double dipping. I was going to Mizzou and also DeVry in Kansas City, and so like I was gung ho in my college days. But when I thought I was never going to pay that off until I joined the Air Force. Obviously, then I had tuition assistance. I had my GI Bill. I had everything we had. But I was serving my country.
Big difference.
And it's a little different, but like these guys are serving their schools, right? I kind of put it in the same. I mean, obviously, I wore a uniform, got put in front of danger. These guys can get hit and get hurt, but it's a little different. But at the same time, it's a little bit the same. I think there definitely needs to be a structured black and white. You could get $50K, right, or whatever the number is. No one seems to be able to have this, by the way. Whatever it is, as far as definitive black and white, this is what a player should get, can get, may get. There's no guarantee, right? For their sportsmanship, playing skill, abilities. They already get paid for their likeness now.
Right.
So they can use a name on the back of a jersey,
sure,
which they previously were not able to do. Mm-hmm. So they can do that now. So they get paid for their likeness. So they get, memorabilia, stuff that sells, jerseys, shoes, whatever the case is. They're getting paid for their likeness now. But now getting paid to play, it's like a job while they're in school. I don't know. I go back and forth on it.
Well, how about this? All the premier players, you're making $10 million, $15 million. Okay, great. Get what you're worth.
I agree with that.
Pay the university back the money on the scholarship.
Oh, good call.
Yes,
I like that.
Yeah,
and a lot of these guys do a lot. Like Travis Kelce, Jason Kelce. These guys give back to Ohio.
Sure,
the Heights back there, but they give back to the alum.
The little guys. Okay, you're a third string. You're making $50,000.
Yeah.
That is just paying for. Maybe you have a car. You can go out a couple meals or whatever. Because let's be honest, a lot of these big schools, a lot of these kids they didn't come from wealthy families. This is their only chance,
right?
They're ever going to make.
And that's where I go back and forth. It's like, there's guys that get recruited. I almost want to say drafted. They get recruited by the Nick Sabans and the Urban Meyers of the world,
correct?
Right? And they some of these kids are in very, very either rural or very like financially drained suburbs of cities, economies.
Yes,
I was trying to use the right politically correct word.
Right.
But a lot of these kids, unless they get these chances to go play for these schools, they ain't gonna do anything. They're playing street ball. If they're hooping it up down at the Y, or they're playing on some college field, just hoping someone sees them. Right. Well, and it's crazy. But I agree with that. I think that's awesome. But I think there has to be a limit. There has to be a definitive black and white context. Put it in a box. Say this is what you can't do. This is what we're gonna do for you. I mean, I don't want to see a Patrick Mahomes of NCAA D1 school getting $1 million to come play for Texas Tech.
Right.
When this guy over here is only getting $50,000. I don't want to see that happen.
Correct.
Because what we see every year when we're seeing drafts and we're seeing these guys move and transfers being made and trades being made, we see these crazy $400, $500 million deals, right? Where Patrick Mahomes of the world are getting $575 million for a 5-year contract.
Right.
And then you got guys that are starving that have been in the league for 8-9 years, barely getting a $70 million deal.
Right.
So it's like, I don't want to see it get to that level because that will disgust me.
Let me ask you this.
That will disgust me.
You know how as soon as you became a known player in the college world, you want to sign a contract and go to NFL. But if you notice now, you're starting to see where these kids are like, well, I can go and get the league minimum.
Yeah.
Or I could stay in college
10 mil, 15 mil,
and go 4 years.
I personally love, and I know where we're going with this, I personally love when a 4th-year quarterback decides to stay, or even a wide receiver, any player in general.
I like that.
I love when they say, I'm not declaring this year. I'm going to stay in my 4th year. I'm going to be with this team. I personally love that.
Dedication.
It shows dedication. It shows loyalty. It also shows you're not willing to just jump off for a paycheck.
Right.
You like the game that much. You care about it. You're loyal. I love that for those that are watching. But finishing, and we got to wrap up. We got a couple minutes here, and then we got to do some closing stuff. But anything else you want to say around players being paid to come play?
Well, guys, there's a happy medium. Remember this. My father always told me one thing: go get what you're worth. But the same team, same thing. Remember this, guys. Go get what you're worth, but when you're being dragged to that next level, coaches and owners are going to remember your actions. So there's a medium. Go get what you're worth, but have some loyalty to the organization who put you where you're at. I'll leave it at that.
I couldn't say that was deep. I couldn't say that any better myself. That was perfect. Jeff, dude, let's wrap up. Thank you so much for being here.
Always, thank you for the invite.
I absolutely love when you come and join the show, dude. You always bring a total different level of perspective to the game and to the insights that we talk about. For all of y'all that are watching right now, thank you guys so much. I wouldn't be here without every one of you guys. We have some goals for next year. We're coming in hot, 2025. That sounds weird to say. But I will leave y'all with this. Like I mentioned before, this will be the last live podcast for the Russell Factor for 2024. We're coming in strong as ever. We got some marketing, some changes that we're going to do for 2025. That being said, I hope everyone has a happy holiday, a very Merry Christmas for those that it doesn't offend. Enjoy, be safe for the new year. We will see you guys in 2025. As always, like, subscribe, share. Do that below. We'll see you guys in 2025. Take care. Jeff, thanks again, man.
Always.
I love having you, bud.
Happy New Year.
See you guys. We'll see you soon.
Use bathroom. Ugh.